Joining me in studio, Congressman Randy Neugebauer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Doing well. Good to have you in studio today.
Good to be here.
Thanks for stopping by. I guess first question we need to ask is, how's your health?
It's
How
good.
You doing?
How do I look?
You look great.
Well, I feel good, and I think it's the result of just getting early diagnosis and early treatment. And I finished up my last treatment a couple of weeks ago, and I've gotten preliminary results back and showing no detectable PSA at this time. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Very
so
good.
we're feeling good.
Congratulations on that. And of course, you've been on a little bit of a break. Congress has been on a break. And I'm sure there are a lot of American people who are saying, yes, okay, good. You're on. Yeah. We're okay when y'all are on break.
Exactly. People say America's a lot safer when the House and the Senate are in recess. Yeah.
Depending on how you look at things, that may be true.
Yeah.
What have you been doing during the recess?
Well, what we always do is when we come back, we have a lot of people that requested meetings, and we've met with groups. We've met with some people from the credit unions talking about what all of this regulation that's coming out of Dodd-Frank and how it's impacting their ability to serve their customers. We met with some community bankers yesterday. Same subject, that falls under the jurisdiction of the committee that I'm chairman of. Just met with some agricultural producers. We went down and visited the VA hospital in Big Spring. Sat down with the administrator there to see how they're coming on, doing a better job of taking care of our veterans. Headed to Abilene. So just, basically these are my bosses. And so when I'm back in the district, we try to, listen to what's on the mind of our bosses.
Besides, the banking issues that are out there, what are some of the things that you're still hearing from voters who are frustrated with government, frustrated with what's going on in D.C.?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So one of it is just a huge amount of regulations that just are spewing out of almost every department of this administration, and how it's impacting a lot of our small businesses and how it's impacting individuals, whether it's the Clean Air Act or the Endangered Species Act or the Department of Labor, EPA. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I think a lot of people are frustrated with it. A lot of people still very frustrated with the affordable or Obamacare. People have been getting premium increases, finding out that they have to pay more and more of their health care costs before their insurance company pays. Generally, certainly people are concerned about, what's the economy, and particularly in the last couple of days, people are, watching the stock market have a little correction here. So just those are the common things. But I think the general theme that I hear, Chad, from people is that they are very concerned about the direction our country is headed. And I think I attribute a lot of that to the lack of leadership that's come out of this particular administration. And I think that's kind of spilling over into this presidential discussion and debate, is people are looking for some new leadership, some strong leadership. And I think one of the interesting things to me is when you look at kind of the front runners in the Republican side, Donald Trump, Mr. Carson, Senator Cruz. Two of those people have never served an elected position, and one of them is just now starting to serve in their first elected position. And so I think that's a little bit indicative. Early on here, people are looking for kind of a new direction for our country.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that, because you see the front runners right now, and throw Carly Fiorina in there, another outsider. They're the ones who it seems they're rising the fastest in the polls. Obviously, Donald Trump dominating everybody in the polls right now. What does that say not only about the administration, and I think a lot of Republican voters, obviously, they wanted a different direction when it comes to the White House, but do you think it has anything to say about Republican leadership, that you have some folks like a Rick Perry or a Rick Santorum that have been around forever? Even I would say Jeb Bush, he's up there in the polls, but you still don't see a lot of enthusiasm about Jeb Bush. That some of the folks who are associated with Washington, D.C. are being quote-unquote insiders. They're not supported as much as the outsiders right now.
I think that's exactly right, and I think that just goes with people are very frustrated, with the direction of the country, and so they looking for what I guess a new business model. If I'm an old business guy, so I think in terms of business models, I think they're looking for a new business model because they're concerned that this one we've been using, we've got $18 trillion in debt. We've collected a record amount of revenue this year, but we're still going to have a $500 billion deficit. The foreign policy is not looking too good for the U.S. Domestic policy is not looking too good, and so I think people are saying, "Gosh, we got to." I hate to use the word change, but
right.
I think people are looking for a new direction.
Have you been happy with Republican leadership?
No, I don't always agree with Republican leadership, Chad. I mean, I'm on the record sometimes. I go against my leadership because I don't think they're going in the right direction, and I will continue to vote how I think is in the best interest of this country. There's been a lot of talk about, Mr. Boehner and Mr. McConnell. And those elections are held every 2 years. And I think people are saying, well, why did you support, Mr. Boehner? Well, at the time we had the election, Mr. Boehner was the only person that ran for that office. But you can have leadership that you don't agree with, but I try to, where I see opportunities to work with the leadership to move them in a direction I think is good. But when I don't think they're moving in a direction they should, if you can ask Speaker Boehner, I hear from Mr. Neugebauer. Yeah,
we'll go ahead and we'll take the break. When we come back, we have one more segment with Congressman Randy Neugebauer. Still have major issues like Iran to talk about and some other key issues as well when we come back. All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Congressman Randy Neugebauer in studio. And let's do this. We have a question on the phone, so let's go ahead and take a listener question real quick. Richard, you're on with Congressman Randy Neugebauer.
Yes, Mr. Neugebauer. I hear you talking about all this stuff and heading the wrong direction, but I want to know why you voted to allow President Obama and the left to get all the stuff they wanted at the last big communist vote.
Well, I didn't vote for that.
No. I'm talking about the vote that even let it come to the floor. Now, I know when it came to vote, you voted against it, but you voted to allow it to even be heard. Why even give it that light of day?
Okay, so I think you're talking about the vote on the rule. And so basically one of the advantages of being in the majority is that the majority gets to control the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee controls the debate. I have always supported the ability, for us to bring bills to the floor and then let each individual member have their say-so. That offers the opportunity for them to speak for or against that bill, to be able to offer amendments if it's allowed under the rule. So, part of the being in the majority, part of the reason the American people gave the Republicans the majority is for them to be able to control the rules in the debate.
Richard, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate you coming on with 770-5790, toll-free 1-800-687-0790, visiting with Congressman Randy Neugebauer. Do you think, and a lot of people had a problem with that, and not only with you but other Republicans as well, do you ever foresee a time where it's a good idea to say, okay, no, I'm not going to allow this to go to a vote?
I think that's always an option that you would have, and I think you have to weigh that carefully, because basically when you do that, then you really kind of turn the debate control back over to the minority. And so the question is then, if you lose control of the debate, then what is the outcome if you relinquish that? And so I think that's a discussion. One of the things I think that what you have an opportunity to do, though, is the Rules Committee has a hearing prior to bringing that rule to and I've on a number of occasions gone and spoken for or against the rule, or making sure that we were going to be able to offer an amendment in that for the rule or something like that. So there's a lot of opportunities for members of Congress, if they choose to do that, to express and to impact that process.
Let me ask you about the Iran agreement. Obviously, you're against the agreement that the administration has worked out with Iran. Since this agreement was announced, we've seen stories come out about how Iran will be able to inspect its own nuclear facilities, which I'm not sure who came up with that as a great idea, but that's one of the things that we've seen. I'm sure there are other things that are hidden in this agreement. You're against this agreement, so tell me, one, what would be an alternative, a good alternative in your mind, and also what a Republican president could be able to do. Let's say President Cruz is elected, or President Rubio is up there, or President Bush. What could they do to sideline this agreement?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is normally some of these agreements, arms agreements, are generally a treaty. And so you notice this is not a treaty. The reason this is not a treaty is the president felt like, and I'm sure it was going to be difficult for him to get 66 votes to ratify a treaty. So basically this is almost kind of like an executive order. And so the president's going to send this over, and in September the House will pass a resolution of disapproval. Most likely the Senate will do the same. It'll be sent then to the president, who will more than likely veto the disapproval resolution. Then the question is whether there will be enough votes in the House and the Senate to overturn the president's veto. I believe, since this is not a treaty, that that the next president should be a Republican president, could administratively do some things to change the complexion of that. But certainly, I'm pretty sure that whoever that's going to be would be send a new resolution back over to Congress. But what would I do different? The thing I would do different is the sanctions that we have in place are working. It's putting a lot of pressure on the government, and the people are suffering the consequences of this. And when the people are suffering, they put pressure on the leadership to make those changes. We would get a much tighter verification. This basically doesn't keep Iran from having a nuclear capability. It just delays it. I thought the whole goal was for them not to ever have it. But in this case, we see that they're going to be able to have it, and we see very little verification. So I don't even know how it's not a good deal for the U.S. It's a really good deal for Iran.
Do you agree with those presidential candidates who say on day one, or day two, day three, but on day one, I can go in and I can get rid of this nuclear agreement with Iran?
They say they can, and I'm not sure the legality of that, but it is more like an executive order than it is a treaty, and so it wouldn't be invalidating a treaty; it would be invalidating an executive policy.
What about Obamacare? If we have a Republican president in the White House, let's assume that the Senate even stays Republican. Maybe it goes Democrat. There's some talk that it could go Democrat. Could a Republican president, do you think a Republican president will be able to get rid of Obamacare?
Not by an executive order. Now, I think what you're going to do, there's some things that we have been trying to do that we cannot get to the president's desk, and we knew if we get it to the president's desk, he would invalidate it. I think what's going to happen, Chad, is this thing is getting worse and worse and worse. And so I think you're going to see cries both from the left and the right that this is not working. We've got to begin to go to Plan B. If you've got a Republican president, then and you're able to get those things done in the House and the Senate, I think you've got a much better chance of doing that. But this is a three-legged stool, as you've heard me say. For a few Congresses, we had one leg of the stool. We now have two legs of the stools, kinda, because of the 60-vote threshold. Still makes that a little bit kind of a leg and a half, maybe. But certainly, if we have the White House, it got a much better opportunity.
You're obviously looking forward to some change in the White House. Will you be running for re-election?
I am here to announce that I'm not running for president, Chad. We're just into this Congress, and certainly if the answer to that question is today, but certainly as we get closer to re-election time, we'll do what we always do and give thought to that and move forward.
So you're still kicking it around right now?
Well, I'm not even thinking about it right now because we're right in the middle of some very important things that we're doing in Congress, and so we've got 16 months left in the job that I was elected to do. That's what we're really focusing on.
How much will you always look at presidential election years and going into an election year? How much will actually be done? Because everyone's going to start running for something here soon.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the thing that September is going to be a very interesting month in D.C. You've got the debt ceiling, you've got the CR or some kind of an appropriation bill, you've got the Iranian deal, you've got the transportation bill, and you've got these two issues out there that are real toxic right now: the sanctuary cities and the Planned Parenthood issue. So watch September. It's a fairly compressed legislative month, but a lot of very important issues are going to be brought up during that. And that presidential politics begins to spill into that because some of the players in this presidential field are members of the legislative body, and they're going to be in a little bit different position than some of the outsiders. The outsiders will be able to criticize. The insiders are going to have to be taking those votes.
Visiting with Congressman Randy Neugebauer. Only have probably a few seconds left here. And what can those on the ag front look forward to in the coming year?
Well, I think there's a challenge out there. The commodity prices are not as good as we liked. We had some early rains, and I think the farmers and ranchers are needing another rain right now. And as I just told the ag group here just a while ago, we're certainly watching very closely to see if this new farm policy is working for our agricultural producers.
Congressman, always appreciate your time. You're welcome back anytime here in the studio.
Thank you, Chad. Thanks for having me.